Hey y'all, this is Anna Huthmaker from Huthmaker Violins, and you found another one of our Students Stuck at Home series. I'm making videos for every school day that the kids across this country are having to do digital learning. I'm hoping to help the teachers and I'm hoping to help the students. It's my way of giving back. And speaking of giving back, the last 3 videos, if you've been paying attention, were about learning to tune your bass, learning to tune your cello, and learning to tune your violin. Well, I wouldn't be a very good teacher if, following those 3 videos, I didn't teach you how to change a string. Now, in all honesty, it is my hope that thousands of you across the country watch those videos and tune your instruments and have no problems. But statistics tell us that there's a good chance that a few strings are going to get broken. So what you're going to have to do is jump on the phone. Hopefully you have some spare strings in your case. But if you don't, jump on the phone, call your favorite violin shop and ask them to mail you one, since we can't get to shops in so many places right now. And then you're going to have to change it yourself. Now, this is actually not too difficult if you move slow, be patient, and watch this video about 15 times. The first thing you need to understand is how a peg really works. So this is my lovely cello scroll. It's seen better days, as you can tell. But if you look, the peg has holes in it. Now, usually a peg has one hole all the way through. Sometimes older instruments that have been used for a long time, they'll have a couple holes. But for the sake of our discussion, we're going to worry about this middle hole right here. And when the peg goes into the peg box, that hole is what you're going to be aiming for with the string. Much easier to see here than on a little tiny violin. So now you've kind of figured that out. The first thing you, I'm assuming, did was take the parts of your old string off the instrument. Usually that's as simple as lifting it off the tailpiece. Sometimes the string will get stuck up here in the peg box and you might need to go get some tweezers and kind of pull the end out. And you can throw that away. Although, helpful hint, if you find yourself breaking the same string 2 or 3 times, keeping those broken strings is a really smart idea, because sometimes it's not use or overuse or age that's making the string break. Sometimes it can be a rough edge somewhere on your violin. So if the string breaks in the exact same place every time, it's nice to know then that you can tell there's another problem you can fix down the road. But for now, we're just going to assume you have one broken string. When your string comes, first thing I want you to do, let's talk really quickly for just a moment to the violinists. You are most likely to break your E string. It's the skinniest, the thinnest, the most fragile. And when you break your E string and you call your favorite violin shop and say, can you send me an E string? They're going to say loop end or ball end. I need you to know which kind of E fine tuner you have on your instrument. Now, if you look at this violin, this is what's called a loop end fine tuner, and it's got just one little hook that comes out, and the E itself just has a simple little loop on it that grabs on. Now, a lot of other instruments will have a ball end, so the E string will actually have on the end of it a little metal ball that looks like this, and the E will either have a fine tuner with 2 little hooks that the ball will go into, or like this has got a tailpiece with built-in fine tuners, and in this case, the ball end would just slip in there. You do not want to try and use a loop end with one of these. They'll break really quickly. So, and a ball end is not stable on a loop end fine tuner. So you need to know ball end or loop end. If you get lost and you're not sure, shoot me an email with a picture of your instrument and I will tell you what you have. So for the sake of visualness, it's a little easier to see. We're going to change the G string on this violin. Now, this works exactly the same if you're a violist. So all you need to know is which string goes where. The first thing you're going to do is take the end and you're going to slip it into this hole and slide it up into the notch on your fine tuner. Now, pay attention here, because this little ball end could start to slip out if you're not paying attention. You need to make sure it gets in there really well. Sometimes you may need to take a pencil and kind of push it down in there. If your ball end does not fit into the hole like this, because some tailpieces won't, then you would actually just string it up from the bottom. Most of you won't have to worry about that, but you would just come in from the bottom with the other end like this. Now, once that is in there and it's slid up in that little slot, we want that to stay there. So from here on out, I'm basically going to try and keep tension on this. I'm going to make sure it goes into the groove on the bridge. If I'm doing an E string, and if it has a collar on it right here, I'm going to make sure it goes on top of the bridge. If you get a string without a collar, don't worry about it. Some have them, some do not. It's no big deal. Then you notice I'm still keeping tension on it, and I'm going to come all the way up here, and I want it to go into this little groove on your nut. Now, this is where, if you're really smart and you want to be extra fancy, take a pencil, put a little graphite in that groove real quick before you finish this process. That helps give it some lubrication, and it will help your string last longer. Now, you're going to lay your right arm over the strings so that this can be loose, but none of this back here is coming out. And this is where it gets fun, because since the string has already been in a peg, it's got some little bends and kinks in it, but I think I can make this work. So I'm going to turn my peg, I'm going to find that hole. Remember I showed you on the big giant cello scroll? I'm going to stick the string into the hole. And you've got to stick it through. It's going to need to stick out of the other side just a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Because when you start turning, you need to catch a hold of that so that it doesn't pull out. Now, you don't want that end sticking way out. It'll buzz, it'll rattle, it'll make ugly sounds. And then you just start, now at this point I'm keeping tension on all this. You just start turning it gently and threading the string. Now, you want as much as possible to line the string up next to itself. Don't pile it up on top of itself. The way this peg box is fitting, I'm gonna have to do it on top of itself just a little bit. But once I get close, you will remember from your learning how to tune your violin video, I never go up to pitch without plucking constantly. And before I get too carried away, putting my eyeballs back down here on this end, I want to make sure that little ball didn't come and slip up a little bit. These things can come, and when you start putting tension on the string, they can come flying out. We want to avoid that. So, and then I tuned it up. Now, when you're doing this, unless you're really used to tuning your instrument, please turn it a little slower than I did. Listen a little bit more carefully than I did. This is not my first rodeo. I've tuned about 1,000 violins, but I want you to take your time. Don't be in a rush. It's not a race. And once you're finished changing that string, then you can fine tune all of them using your tuner, using your bow, and make sure you're ready to practice. Remember, never change more than one string at a time. Support your violin on something soft, one string at a time. If you take off all the strings, your sound post is going to fall down, then you got a mess on your hands. I hope that helps, and I hope it teaches you what to do if you have a broken string. If you have any questions, go to huthmakerviolins.com. Send them to me. I'm Anna. I'll answer them as quickly as I possibly can. Don't forget to thank your teachers. They're working really hard to help you learn at home. And you know how much trouble you went into tuning that, into changing that string? They do about 500 a week. So we need to give them a big old standing ovation. Thanks so much. I'm Anna Huthmaker with Huthmaker Violins, and I'll see you at my next video.